Many years ago, I came across a few lines in a book that I connected with. They were, "It's easy to judge, but you never know another person's heart, what gives them strength and what breaks them down." I have learned to listen more and speak less. The result has been eye-opening conversations and inspirational moments that I have shared with you right here. Hello and welcome back to my channel. It is Crystal One-on-One time and we're at Kampala Sheraton Hotel for yet another conversation. Joining me today, I have 13-time motor racing champion. Someone can say 13-time champion, Arthur Blick, pretty much the head of the Blick racing family right now, I will say, or team, should I say.
Yeah.
How are you?
Kind of. I'm good. A pleasure to be here
It's
on
a pleasure
your
to have
one-on-one
you.
channel, Crystal. So,
I mean,
pleasure.
in terms of your titles, I think it's better for you to take us through it, because you said 2-time motocross. 11-time
Okay.
motocross champion,
Yeah.
and then 2-time.
Grass track champion. 2015 national rally champion. National enduro champion. 2019 national sprint champion. And 2 times East African motocross champion.
So where in the house are all these trophies?
Actually, there's no more room for trophies in the house.
No? Are they in boxes? You need to have like a
Stored away.
space.
True.
Because it's not just you with trophies, right?
Oh, yes. My boys, they're all competing now. My wife, we raced together, we rallied together. So some trophies are just pretty much stacked away in boxes.
Okay. So, as someone who's been part of a family that's so into sports for so many years, was it something that, was just like a natural fit for you, like way back in the day when you were growing up? Or did you have to be like pushed into it?
To be honest, we were not pushed into it. I personally, I feel that for the entire Blick family, we are very competitive. Whichever sport we put our hands on, we are very competitive, because I have my cousins who have competed in different sports, basketball, for example, and they've excelled. All the way from our parents. Now, I am the second generation. I am part of the second generation of the Blick sporting family. My dad and my late uncle, the late Paddy Blick, and my auntie,
Maggie.
Maggie Chigozi. They competed, and they were the best.
Where did it all start? With your dad?
Oh, it all started with the late Paddy Blick.
Okay.
He brought introduced racing into the
family.
The Blick family. He's pretty much referred to as the godfather of motorcycle racing in the country as well.
Okay.
He introduced it to the family, to his little brother, my dad, Arthur Blick Sr., and then the sister, Maggie Chigozi Blick, Dr. Margaret Chigozi Blick, and pretty much we were introduced into that world by that.
And you've also passed it on now.
And we've also passed it on to the 3rd generation. So we have 3 generations of racing in the Blick family.
Okay. Do you remember when you started, how old you were?
Oh yes. I first sat on a racing bike when I was 13 years old.
Okay.
I know now they start much younger. Back in our days, we did not have small motorcycles. You would either ride a 125cc, which is a big motorcycle, or a 250cc motorcycle, which is an even more powerful and bigger motorcycle. So we didn't have the opportunity to start on the small little 50cc's, then to the 65cc's like what we have today. So I only managed to sit on a racing bike when I was 13 years old. And the fact that I was in boarding school, I studied in the Kadatuma Academy, way off in Mbarara. And I only got a few opportunities to actually go and sit on a racing bike and race during the holidays. And some of the holidays there would not be any motorcycling activities. So you can imagine it's just a countable times that I actually went, sat on a racing bike, got introduced to it, you know. And it's actually after my high school when I was the long break. That's when my career pretty much kicked off. That was around 1996. Yeah.
Was your dad supportive?
To be honest, no. Actually, my dad was involved in an accident while racing in 1983, very many years ago. And my mother was really against me getting anywhere near motorcycles.
Yeah.
My dad too, I guess, at some point. So I actually started sneaking. I would tell my parents, so I'm going to visit a friend. At that time I had a good friend, Domenico Malara, the late. He passed on. I would say, I'm going to visit my friend, and I would end up going and racing and training and racing, and eventually they found out in the newspapers, one of the newspapers shows, Arthur Blick,
No way, they didn't know.
They didn't know. And it was a tough one initially with my mom, especially. But my dad eventually gave in. He said everybody has their own path. It doesn't mean that because he got that nasty accident that I too will get the accident. But it was quite tough convincing my mom.
Because your mom also was, she
yes.
was one of the first female navigators in Uganda.
Actually, my mom was the first female rally driver.
She was the first.
In Uganda. Yeah. And one of the first female navigators. So my entire family has been in the racing world at one point.
Okay. So
Yeah.
when you started, clearly it was this pull, it was, you said you had to be 13 and you got on the bike, then, you found your way. Was it that you had a chance to compete, like you talked about Katatumba Academy? Did that contribute in any way?
Yes. First of all, I must go back to the Katatumba Academy. I feel that that school exposed us to all sorts of extracurricular activities.
Okay.
And like I said, for us, the Blick family, we are very competitive, and wherever there was competition, I made sure I took part. And I feel that first of all, back in the academy, we were exposed to so much.
What other sports did you play?
I played rugby, I played volleyball, swimming, soccer. I played all the sports. Badminton, netball even at some point. And, they also exposed us to extracurricular activities like music. You know that I can play the piano.
And the guitar.
And the guitar, and the violin, and the saxophone.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know about that.
Yeah. It was because in that school, first of all, it was a must for every student to learn to play at least one instrument. But I was in that school for so many years. I would learn one instrument, get a little bored, and then learn another one. So by the time I left the school, I could play all those instruments. I actually got a part-time job here at the Sheraton. I used to play the piano in my senior 6 vacation, just below there in Lions Bar. It's to say that I don't see that in schools these days.
No.
It's saddening that these schools these days focus either on cram work and very little on extracurricular activity. I started earning a living playing a piano in my senior 6 vacation, right here in the Sheraton, in the Lions Bar. And then I used to sell my art and crafts. I got a part-time job with Cheaper's Ice Cream. Books are it. I was in charge of books, switching all the books in the different stations all over the Kampala. And I used to sell my artworks there. Again, those I did fine art in school, and I used to do the batiks and paintings, and I would sell my works in Chipa's ice cream in the bookshop. I mean, I feel that school exposed us to quite a lot that I don't see in the schools today,
Yeah.
sadly.
There's a huge gap.
Yeah,
There's a
huge gap. I mean, I could have been a musician if I wanted, a navio. Oh, you know, I could have been an artist, you know. So, I mean,
Well, it's nice that you actually at least dabbled. Do you still draw now? Do you still do anything with your art?
unfortunately, no.
Oh,
Well,
Arthur.
I do. I do actually. I own a motor vehicle repair workshop, but we also do fabrication. And I am pretty much one of the first people to build buggies. You know, the buggies that we race with? Yeah, I build buggies, and you know, and we do all sorts of fabrication. I mean, whatever you want to make, if it's doable, we do it.
Okay.
Yeah, you need some kind of art.
There, so that's where it is.
That's where it is. Yeah.
Conveniently.
Yeah,
Put it
conveniently
there.
true.
Okay. So you said you were at Katatumba Academy for very many years.
Yeah.
Yes. But at some point you went to Namasagali.
Oh,
What
yes.
was that?
In my senior 3, my kindergarten, from the beginning, my kindergarten, I studied in Jack and Jill nursery school. Then I moved to Buganda Road primary school, from my primary 1 to primary 3. Then I moved to the Katatumba Academy in my primary 4.
Ah.
So I was there from primary 4 all the way to senior 3, and I moved to Namasagali for 2 terms. My parents thought I needed to try out a different school at that point. So I was in Namasagali for 2 terms, and then went back to the Katatumba Academy until I completed high school.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So you were working early. I think like every holiday you would still find something to do because you're talking about your S6. Like
Yes.
your vacation, you were playing piano, you were selling your art, you were working at Chippers as well. Okay, so did you at any point like go out into the world and get like a proper job?
Proper
As it's
job.
called.
Oh,
Was this after like you went to Makerere?
yes, I went to Makerere, and then after that, you know, my dad owned a garage up in Muyanga, and he ran the garage Speedway Engineering for years. I used to spend a lot of my time in the holidays seeing how, you know, the engine operates. So, you know, it was just, it's amazing, the mechanical world, you know. At one point I wanted to become a mechanical engineer because of that, my dad and all this, the mechanics going on. So I developed a keen interest in mechanical repairs. So really, pretty much after my Makerere, I just went straight to the garage, my dad's garage. I ran it for a few years, and eventually took over the garage. So it's been one of my major businesses, mechanical repairs. We now moved. We are on Rubaga Road in Mengo,
Yes.
and we've been there for the last, I think, 20 years or so.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we also have a riding academy, the Blick Riding Academy,
Yes.
where we train, where we do defensive riding courses.
When did that start?
We started that about, in 2010. That's
Okay.
about 10 years ago.
10 years in
Yeah.
now. Okay.
You know, we saw all these border accidents and motorcycle accidents in the streets, and you know, we thought we needed to give back. You know, something that we are very well versed with, motorcycling, and we started doing some defensive riding courses, and we also train to race, those who want to race or those who just want to learn to ride safely. We do the whole lot.
I remember when I was at university, I
Yeah.
wanted to to get a motorbike.
Oh yes.
Yeah, and I remember you telling me that if you're on a bike, you have to remember that at any point in time, someone
Yeah.
out there is out to get you. I remember you telling me something like
Out
that.
out there to kill you.
Yeah, out there to kill you, and I was like, what?
I'm telling you. I mean, when you see the accidents today, I mean, at least every day, almost every day, I see a motorcycle accident with the border borders. So really, when you're riding out there in Kampala or driving, mostly riding because you're on two wheels, you're more
And you
vulnerable.
don't have anything around
Any
you.
protection. Yeah, I always tell like you said, you ride like people out there to kill you. Or and then you also have to think for everybody. You don't take anything for granted.
Yeah.
You know, don't ride and think, oh, he'll see me, so he'll stop. Or you have to ride and think for all road users, the ones in the vehicles, even the ones just crossing, walking, because most of the time you may be as careful as possible, but these other people being reckless may
They're distracted.
endanger you.
Yes, true.
So there's a lot of reckless driving and riding in this country of ours.
I totally agree.
Yeah, so you know, I have my cousins who, they say they want to ride again. They want to ride in Kampala, and I'm thinking, oops, that's not the best place or safest place to start riding.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just there's a lot of recklessness.
Yeah.
These borders get to the traffic lights. They don't follow the rules and the regulations. They just crisscrossing.
Anyhow.
Anyhow.
I remember just thinking, what kind of madness is this? Someone does a U-turn in front of you
Yeah.
while you're driving.
Yeah.
I'm like, are you aware? Like you said, it's just you on this little two-wheel thing.
Exactly.
Crazy.
Even as you drive, you have the borders sneaking up on you. I mean, before you turn, you have to make sure there's no border. There's no. So it's quite challenging. But I guess once you're able to ride in Kampala, you can ride anywhere in the world. For sure.
Previously on Crystal One-on-One. I would like to introduce Angie Mirembe.
I tell people to learn coding as well because it opens your mind up to possibilities.
Where were you born? Where did you live in the early years?
I was born in Nairobi, Kenya, and then I moved to Uganda, then I moved to Lesotho, then I moved to South Africa, then I came back to Uganda, then I moved to London, and then I'm back here.
You left to go to London.
Coming from here, I think the talk at that time was deviate. And I go, and people, my age group, were talking mortgages. I was like, what is mortgage? Who is mortgage?
So your advice to young women?
Let them get themselves educated, because I cannot sit here and say don't, because it's also built me up. But you have to do it side by side, side by side.
Wow.
Right, you're able to ride in Kampala, you can ride anywhere in the world. For sure.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
You were born into a family of sisters.
Oh yes.
So many sisters.
Oh yes.
Was there ever any pressure on you to be different because you're the boy,
Pretty much, I used to, when we were young playing, then I was forced to play with dolls, but I would always agree that for 1 hour we'll play with dolls, the next hour we'll go on the bicycles and, compete. So I guess that kind of brought out the softer side of myself,
Okay.
having sisters.
So I was just thinking, now as someone with all those sisters, right? And you said earlier on that, you're very competitive. The Blick family is very competitive. Are you competitive with each other as well, like between your siblings, your cousins?
Oh yes, we're very competitive. I remember, I have my cousin William Blick, And we actually used to visit, you know, I used to go visit William growing up, and I remember this particular situation. We were racing. We were trying to see who was the fastest from one point to another in Boyogere. You know, he gives me his bicycle, and you know, his bicycle would break. You pedal backwards to brake, you know, and the brakes.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, the actual brakes here on the handlebars were not working. They were just there for decoration, you know. And I'm going for it, trying to you know, to beat his time, and time to brake, boom, nothing, you know. I had to pedal backwards. I didn't know that. I just rammed into the gate.
Oh, man.
And that particular situation just comes to mind, how competitive we were. I mean, we hurt ourselves plenty. But yeah, I always wanted to go visit cousins, male cousins, you know, so that, you
Get
know,
away from the girls. Huh?
we can do some male stuff, you know. Yeah. And yeah, that's it. But pretty much we were very competitive. I've seen my sisters.
Yeah.
They too are competitive. I mean, Leila in the rally cars, you know. If she got a good sponsor, a good backup sponsorship, I think she would really excel. She's a very aggressive girl. Lisa, you know, Lisa is one of the first girls to ride in Kampala. You know, ride a motorcycle. I mean, when she said she wanted to ride, I thought she was joking, you know. And, you know, her first bike was a 250cc. And you know, little Lisa,
She was
very
so little
tiny,
on this
you know,
huge bike.
And I'm thinking, okay, you know. But yeah, I went ahead, taught her how to ride, and boom, she was hitting the Kampala streets.
I still remember
immediately.
her with her architect's, the scrolls or just
Yeah.
sticking up higher than her. And she'd be on the bike all the
Yeah.
time, going to campus and,
Campus,
and
yeah.
everything.
Her
Oh
first
my
bike,
gosh.
huge bike, 250. Wow, I thought, wow, that's quite ambitious. So yeah, we are quite competitive, each and every one of us in our different ways.
Okay. You talked about one of your first wins was when you ended up in the papers and then your parents found out
Yeah.
that you were racing.
That's where they found out that I was racing. And before that, I didn't have a motorcycle. Of course, they couldn't buy me motorcycles because, you know, the situation with my dad. So my cousin William had a motorcycle, a dirt bike, a Honda CR 125. So I pretty much, when he went to the UK to study, so the bike was available there. I feel, and believe me, that kind of got me introduced to the sport. You know, I said, you know, you stay there in the UK. You know, I'll while I handle stuff this side. You know, so I got quite some motorcycling experience with his bike because I didn't have any bike. And then when my parents eventually found out, they bought me a bike.
You're like, okay.
They said, okay, you know. And that was in 1997, where I went for my first championship. And those days, you know, we used to race. It's not the modern day motocross where we're jumping, and we just used to go race around the football stadium.
Okay.
So we used to do a lot of racing in Nachivo Stadium and Wankulukuku Stadium. So basically we would just go around, do a U-turn on one end of the field and an S-bend on the other end. So they call it grass track racing. And at that time, Wycliffe Bukenya was the champion. In those days, he had been a champion many years. So I actually got an opportunity to race with somebody that had raced with our parents. You know, Wycliffe Bukenya, he had raced with our parents, and now I was racing against him. You know, it was quite...
Were you determined to beat him?
Oh yes, but I'm telling you, that's one of the most aggressive riders and reckless riders that I've ever competed against. I mean, I just remember getting ahead, getting past him, you know, and I just peep behind and I look at his face. Just the look in his face just freaked me out, you know, like this lion coming, you know, hungry lion coming out for me. So I'll never forget that scene,
expression.
that expression. I looked at his face and it looked like if he could just grab and slaughter me, you know. So I was just racing
For your life.
for my life. And you know, I beat him. I beat him the first time, and then we changed bikes. There were two hits. He took my bike, you know. He thought, oh, my bike, maybe his bike has a problem. He gave me his bike.
Really?
Yeah.
You can do that?
Well, at that time, the rules were not very, very strict like today. And he used my bike, and I still beat him with his bike.
Oh, man.
Yeah, and oh, he was so disappointed. But that's when I actually started, my career kicked off. I won the championship in, that was 97. Those days, we used to have like 2 races in a year, or 1 race, or sometimes 2 races in a year to form a championship. In today's racing, you know, we have 7, 8 races, you know, in a year, in a season. So I went ahead to win the next championship the next year. Unfortunately, Bukenya fractured his hip. So when he fractured his hip, he started pulling away from, and then we formed our Speedway Motorsports Club at that time. Actually, we formed the club in 1998. And then we started organizing races and championships. And then I was actually the pioneer in switching from grass track racing to motocross.
Okay.
To the current day motocross.
Okay. And you said back then you didn't have the small bikes, but
Yes.
now you do, because you have children competing from the age of what, 4? Is it?
4 years old, yeah.
I have to be honest. I'm like, it takes a lot to be able to. I mean, you've done that. Your boys. When did they start?
I think I was just super excited when we got our first son. We put him on a bike when he was 2 years old.
No.
He couldn't talk, I don't think he could even walk, but we just put him on the bike. We wanted him to move the thing, you know. But he actually started riding at 3 years old by himself. He started doing these amazing things on a motorcycle. That is our eldest boy. He's now 17. Arthur, he's also Arthur Blick. He's Arthur Blick the third. So he's Arthur Alistair Blick. And you know, he started racing when he was 3 years old. He started riding. 3 years old. We put him on a bike. I remember all these parents looking and saying, "Arthur, you're crazy. You're a mad person. How do you put this little boy?" But he was so amazing on the bike. I mean, he was doing stuff that, you know, us older people, some older people wouldn't do on a bike. He would ride on one wheel at 3 years old. He had a 3-wheeler which he would balance and ride.
A 3-wheeler?
A 3-wheeler. He would ride it on sideways on 2 wheels. You know, I remember one of my friends, Asaf Nathan, we raced quite a bit. We challenged each other many years. You know, he comes, he sees my son riding the 3-wheel on 2 wheels and says, "You're going to be a very rich person."
Okay.
Because it was amazing, you know. So.
And then his brother also.
His brother followed suit. However, his brother is Paddy. Paddy started when he was 4 years old.
Okay.
You know, that's what, you know, it's amazing that not everybody is the same. You know, some people take a bit longer. So Paddy was always the like in the shadows of his brother. For a long time, he was like in the brother's shadows, for all these years, because they moved from, you know, we have age groups and classes. You know, 4 years old to 9 years old, you're on a 50cc motorcycle. Then 8 years old to 12 years old, you're on a 65cc. And then 10 years old to 14, you're on an 85cc. So imagine in all these different classes, Paddy was always in the shadow of his brother. And yeah, but Paddy too has picked his path. He won the National Buggy Championship last year. So,
Yeah.
you know.
Clearly, you're very proud.
I am. Arthur Alistair has about 8 championship titles now to his name. It's good. I mean, and we have the little ones now. We got the 2 boys, the 2 older ones, and we have a 10 years gap. And then got another 2 10 years later. So we have Ethan and Jaden, who are also now